Hi, my name is Arne Aukia, co-founder of Vision, the DevOps company, and I'm here to speak to you today about the Open Clouds for Research Environments OCRE program, together with our partner Exoscale. I'm going to briefly introduce you the OCRE program, Exoscale, the cloud provider company, list the available cloud services, and give you a use case example. I'm going to introduce to you Vision, the DevOps company, and their services. So OCRE is a project of GÉANT, the European Research and Education Community, and it was a Europe-wide tender of infrastructure as a service. The tender was completed in 2020, the end of 2020, and since 2021, it was able to buy cloud services from all the cloud providers that were awarded with a framework agreement per country in the European Union, which I'm going to come to in a second. The benefits of buying through the OCRE program. So it's open to all research and education networks in Europe and their universities, and depending on country, that might include like research institutions, high and middle schools, and other like research and education network members. There's a lot of benefits of buying through that program. One of them being that it's already been publicly tendered. That means that even if it's above a threshold budget, it can be procured through a framework contract because it has already been tendered. So there is no need for each and every institution, each and every project to tender these separately. You can use the existing framework contract. There are various discounts, which I'm going to come back to in a second. Instead of using your personal credit card to buy the cloud services, you can basically buy them on a post-paid invoice. And all the traffic to and from GÉANT, so to and from the research and education networks, are free of charge. So that's also a big cost saving compared to using the public normal price lists. There's also exit support by the suppliers. That means you can get help from us to move your data and your stuff elsewhere, which of course also reduces the risk of a vendor lock-in. You see the list of countries, the list of suppliers on the OCRE project website. The link is here. I'll put it down in the description as well. As you can see, Vision won 38 out of the 40 countries to provide Exoscale, the cloud services, to the research and education community. And so if you click on your country in the map on the link on the website, for each country, there's like the list of cloud providers and their partners and who to contact from your country research and education network, the National Research and Education Network. So for example, in Germany, it's the DFN, and you see there Vision Exoscale, the logos down here. So Exoscale, the cloud provider, was founded in 2011 in Lausanne, Switzerland. Since 2017, they're now part of the A1 Austria group, so a European, original Swiss and now European company. They currently have 75 employees, and they have, although they are a Swiss company, they have 6 data center locations. 2 of them are in Switzerland, Geneva and Zurich. 2 are in Germany, Frankfurt and Munich. Then there is one in Vienna and one in Sofia, Bulgaria, that are currently available. There's another one coming to Austria later this year. So as you can see, they are in Europe. They are a European company. That's also, of course, one of the benefits of not having to have any problems with GDPR or data processing agreements. One of the guarantees Exoscale gives is that the data that's stored in one location does not go to any other location by itself. If you want to transfer or copy your data, for example, for backups from one data center to the other, it's you that does it, and you always know where your data is. And that, of course, also helps with all the certifications and compliance issues. So whether it's ISO's 27000, which of course they're all certified, but also GDPR, the protection of health data, HIPAA, PCI DSS, payment, SOC 1, SOC 2, BSI, the German federal certification for information security, BSISA 5, CASA Star, SCF, TISAX, that's from the automotive industry. they are all these compliance frameworks that Exoscale has that you can use to map your own security and controls to do what Exoscale already has. So that's, of course, one of the benefits of being a local provider. As you can see from the size, it's a company that works on eye level compared to other very large corporations where it's very hard to find somebody or to get contact with somebody. This company you can call if there's ever a problem, and they'll help you. So the benefits of using the OCRE and buying from Exoscale specifically are heavy discounts. So you get by default a 10% discount on all computing and storage services, virtual machines, object storage, and so on. I'm going back to that in a second. You get a 10% discount on the databases service, OpenSearch and Kafka. Kafka being, of course, a very good example of a very compute-intensive, scalable, and also very personal intensive if you want to run it on your own infrastructure. 5% discount on Postgres, MySQL, and Redis, which of course are more used databases services. And as mentioned, 100% discount on traffic to and from GÉANT, which includes both like the computing infrastructure, IaaS, virtual machine services, but also, for example, the object storage, which is an S3 compatible object storage. So you can transfer data directly from your university into the object storage and out again free of charge. You don't have to go through the virtual machines, which of course helps with scalability, transfer speed, copying data in and out, and also, of course, if you ever need to exit, that's also available and available free of charge. And as mentioned, post-paid invoicing, you get an invoice in euros, so that's a lot easier, of course, especially if you do more, right? So let me go through like the different services that are available. The first and foremost, the easiest one is, of course, virtual machines. So you can get virtual servers from half of a gig to 400 gigs of RAM, from 1 to 96 CPU cores, from 0 to 8 GPUs, from 10 gigs to 15 terabytes of SSD storage. I mean, virtual machines, it's a standard service. Yes, it's available in all different sizes. The traffic is still free to and from GÉANT. I mean, as you can see, it starts at this €4.70 a month for a small instance, including the OCRE discount. So that's a very easy cost model. There's a cost calculator telling you exactly how much it is, and then you can deduct your discount. So that's very easy. You don't need a PhD to understand the pricing. And of course, since the traffic is free, the storage, the IOPS are free or included. That's of course a very, very easy way to estimate the cost and know exactly how much you're going to pay, especially compared to other players. I mentioned GPUs. That's also something that's available that's not so often, especially for the smaller cloud providers. There's like 3 different types of GPU with, of course, different performance and also different price points. The most interesting, of course, is the biggest, the A40, where you have like a lot of resources where they use it for AI model training, data analysis, data processing, video analysis. That's, of course, the heavy lifting is done by the big ones. The smaller ones are super interesting if you need like for classrooms. So for students to play around with GPUs, they usually don't need the biggest one, but all of them need one, right? So we have, for example, also a training company, and other universities use it for classrooms so that they can spin up like a dozen of those GPUs for a class, let the students play around with them. After the class, they shut them down, and of course, they only pay for the hours the instances were running or the GPUs were used. So that's, of course, very easy to a good use case to use cloud resources, because you don't need them like 24/7 running. So you only need them like at the times when you actually, and you only pay them when you actually need them. That's the GPUs. You also dedicated hypervisor available. Dedicated hypervisor means you get your own dedicated hardware that you can run in virtual machines or other services on top. There's like the standard dedicated hypervisor with 400 gigs of RAM, 96 CPU, and 5 terabytes fast SSDs. There's also like a trade-off. Of course, you can have at 30% slower, but 60% cheaper. You can have for about the same cost, you can have a 27 terabyte slower SSD storage optimized dedicated hypervisor. And then, of course, the GPU hypervisor, where you have 6 GPUs available in the hypervisor used exclusively by you and your user. So that's, of course, if you have like very strong security requirements, you want to have like some measurements which may not, which are prone to errors because of like noisy neighbors, like other virtual machines running on the same hardware. You kind of have your own hardware, so you are in control of who is your noisy neighbor, and it's hopefully nobody except for yourself. Next up, I already mentioned like database as a service from Exoscale. You get like Postgres, MySQL, Kafka, Redis, and OpenShift as ready-made database services that you can, of course, provision yourself, upgrade, scale, and so on yourself. All of them are available in 4 like SLA sizes, like hobbyist, startup, business, and premium. They are basically the differences is the number of replicas, so the number of redundancy, high availability, basically. Hobbyist and startup have 1, business 2, and premium has 3 replicas. So that, of course, then has much higher, it's much more highly available, but of course, it also adds cost. All of them have a 99.99% uptime SLA. All of them include encryption, easy scaling, easy updates. It's more than about the data and the data redundancy. That's of course different on the different plans. There's an S3 compatible object storage. S3, the protocol to access object storage, that's been the de facto standard now. So to have scalable, reliable, cost-effective object storage, especially for large data sets, large objects. So whether it's for working data sets or backups, it's great use cases to use it. As mentioned, since the traffic is free of charge, you can also use it, for example, to make databases from, to make backups from on-premises infrastructure to the cloud, or use it within the cloud, or even use it on-prem even if the data is stored in the cloud. As you can see, at about 17 euros per terabyte per month on the basic volume layer, or down to 9 euros per terabyte per month if you use if you have really large data sets. The pricing is pretty attractive, and of course, again, since traffic is free, since the access is free, that's also something you can use as your extended workbench, basically, to store also really large data sets. You only pay for the amount of storage you're actually using. So great service. We use that one a lot. Another service that's available, that's Cloud Kubernetes. So Exoscale has their CaaS, the Scalable Kubernetes service, that's available in the Starter and a Pro edition. The Starter is free. You only pay for the virtual machines that are part of the Kubernetes cluster, but they take care of all the, the Kubernetes installation. You can choose the version. You have all the, ingresses and everything else. So that's already included in the Starter. The Pro costs you about 30 something euros per month. That includes like a high available Kubernetes control plane, and of course an SLA, and still you just then add the virtual machines that you need for as part of the cluster. They can be normal virtual machines, they can be storage optimized virtual machines, they can be memory optimized virtual machines, they can be GPU virtual machines. So basically all of them are then just added as nodes in your Kubernetes cluster, and you can use in Kubernetes to orchestrate your workloads on top of any of these worker types. So that's a great way also to streamline the operations and management of virtual machines, just by letting Kubernetes handle the placement of your workloads, of course. In addition to the SKS Cloud Kubernetes service, which is a very minimal service where you have like an ingress and some storage, and that's it, the rest bring yourself. There's also a Red Hat OpenShift service available, which is provided by PaaS, by Vision. And there is the Apuyo Cloud and the Apuyo Managed. Apuyo Cloud is a shared multi-tenant cloud service running on Exoscale that you can basically put your containers on. You only pay by the gigs of RAM that you effectively use by minute. The Apuyo Managed is your own Red Hat OpenShift cluster, which of course you also then have admin access. You can have your own environments. You can then, of course, being a multi-tenant Kubernetes distribution, you can then give access to your different research groups or departments inside your facility, and then you have your own cluster that you can then scale around on the Exoscale infrastructure. DNS, often used, seldomly done themselves. It's available as a ready-made managed service, and maybe special. The DNS requests also are included in the service. So with other cloud providers, you have to pay per requests or per 1,000 requests. These ones are included for free. Also, there's a CDN based on Akamai CDN technology. Basically, whenever you need to have your data placed as close as possible to your end user, whether it's releases, distributions, whatever, and you need to make sure that your server, your infrastructure isn't overloaded with the requests, you can use the CDN service. Of course, especially if you like delivering large amounts of data to industry customers which are not part of the GÉANT network. There's a lot of tooling available, open source, free of charge. So whether you're using Terraform or Ansible to manage and provision your infrastructure already, of course, both of them are supported by Exoscale and have a Terraform provider, an Ansible playbook to provision infrastructure just as well on Exoscale as with any other infrastructure. There's also an Exo command line interface tool, which you can use to build your own automation. There's a web-based portal, of course. And there's also an open API, documented API that you can use to do your own scripts or your own automation for testing, for deployment, for using it in a course, or you're able to spin up and down infrastructure for class. That's of course all there and all supported. It's also, there's a lot of integration with GitLab Actions and GitLab CI for integrations into software development operations. That's, of course, heavy users, of course, ourselves. And of course, both Vision, us, and Exoscale, the cloud provider, are heavy users and contributors to open source. So we are open source companies, and we have, of course, an invested interest to make sure that all of these integrations work, and keep on running, keep on working in the future. Because we believe that open source and open standards create the environment where there is no vendor lock-in. If you're not happy with us, you can use the open source tooling. You can continue using them. You can use them somewhere else. That's totally fine for us. We believe that makes the world a better place, basically, and gives you the freedom to choose whichever provider and service provider you want to use. There's also a cloud service called Desktop as a Service. I'm using a Mac, so whenever I need a Windows machine for anything, because the software is only available on Windows, I basically spin up this VDI service. VDI is called a virtual desktop infrastructure, or Desktop as a Service. So I can stream a Windows desktop basically on any device, whether the device has a Mac or Linux or a phone or a tablet or something, and I can do my Windows stuff, and then I'm done. I can put it down again. So that's of course super interesting, especially if there's like the temporary, or if you have a lot of moving users using different devices from different places. So that of course makes the management of the Windows-based infrastructure a lot easier. If you need to integrate that with like physical devices, printers, facilities, production, that kind of laboratories, then there's a VPN available. So then the cloud-based Windows server or Windows client can then talk to the device that's actually physically located wherever you are. And of course, that makes the whole management of the workplaces, of the phones and tablets, a lot easier than if you have to run them on-prem. Last but not least, from Exoscale, there's also a marketplace. There's a marketplace with a lot of services that are already available, whether they're like firewalls from all the big vendors, like software appliances for network attached storage, for backup, snapshots, container registries. So that's a lot of services already available through Exoscale, even though they're not an Exoscale service. There's of course also a lot of vision services that are available in the Exoscale marketplace, which I'm going to come to right now. So we as Vision, we can provide, in addition to the services Exoscale provides, we can provide additional services like more exotic databases, whether that's MariaDB, Mongo, Influx, Elasticsearch, Rabbit, Memcache, Solr, GitLab. GitLab, for example, is a source code management and deployment platform. We have whether that's SUSE, Red Hat, NGINX, and Keycloak, different types of software that we can provide to you as a service on top of Exoscale through this OCRE framework contract. And then you go into GitLab maybe more prominently. We're one of the few GitLab Select partners in Europe. So there's if you need like a source code management for your institution, for your country, or just for your research group, that's of course a great solution because it's available both as a cloud service, but also as an on-premise software that you can install wherever you need it, compared to other Git services which are only available in the cloud, right? So there you have then clear data residency. You can choose in which country your data and your source code and all your users' data are compared to others. I also mentioned NGINX. NGINX is the software product that's been acquired by F5. It's a long-term like open source web server that we've been using for many years. There's two additional like commercial editions, which is called NGINX Plus. Which then has integrations for special needs, special security features, and of course, if you need license and license compliance, that's what NGINX Plus can bring in addition to the basic open source NGINX. And they have, again, two products that are supported. One is the NGINX Ingress Controller, especially for Kubernetes and Kubernetes-based solutions. And the other one is the NGINX App Protect Web Application Firewall. So if you have a lot of strange or dubious accesses to your web applications, the Web Application Firewall can, of course, help you filter those one out. And of course, since it's all based on open source, of course, they all work no matter on which infrastructure you're running. And it's available to, of course, on Exoscale, but of course also on your own infrastructure if you need it. All of the infrastructure services are, as you saw, all of the infrastructure services already have a good discount at the pay-as-you-need, pay-as-you-go model. If you want to commit to a longer period of time, 12 months, then you can get additional discounts. So if you're willing to commit for at least 3,000 euros per month, then you get a 5% additional discount on all the infrastructure, of course, also on the infrastructure that goes above the 3K a month. And for 10, 25, and 100K per month, you can see that you can get up to additional 20% discount in addition to the 10% discount you're already getting through the OCRE program, if you know kind of as a volume discount. And of course, if you know that's about the minimum that you're going to run for the next 12 months anyway, then of course can make sense to lock that in and get an additional discount. As mentioned, all the services are available at the regular list price, just as a second by second, minute by minute. But of course, that gives you the planability and also the long-term cost effectiveness, especially if you know that if you're going to know that you're going to run 3,000 euros a month anyway, then it of course makes sense to get a discount anyway. So just repeating, 10% discount on the computing services, no minimum order quantity, no minimum purchase, no minimum contract. All the services are built by the hours, so there it's easy. If you want to commit, then the additional discounts are possible. No PhD is required to understand the pricing model. That's one of the key differences, of course. Postpaid invoicing in euro, no need to put in your credit cards. And of course, after we have a call-off contract under the framework agreement, you can run that in complete self-service. You can create your own accounts, you can create your users, you can create your services, you can create your servers, everything by yourself, of course, as cloud services are as you're used from cloud services everywhere. We are happy to be supporting, of course, CERN and Switch in Switzerland, Swiss federal government, of course, the EPFL also in Switzerland, and the ETH Zurich in Switzerland. We have now also been able to help the Utrecht University in the Netherlands, the Leibniz Gemeinschaft in Germany, and the KU Leuven in Belgium. So there, as you can see, we've already been working a lot with research and education customers all over Europe. And as an example, let me share the University of Utrecht case. They have a project called ASReview, which does open source machine learning aided meta research. So basically assists scholars and practitioners to find the most relevant studies and publications in their fields. For example, in medicine, pharmacology, psychology, where there's a lot of different research and studies being done, then to aggregate all of those into like actionable recommendations, for example, of dosage. That's what ASReview is being used for. They are then using Vision Exoscale to do all the training on the deep learning models and the AI models. And running simulation studies to investigate the performance of the newly available models, right? So to run in simulation mode through lots of data and then compare if the new version does it better or worse than the previous model. And in the future, they're planning to provide an ASReview cloud service because, of course, most of the scholars that use the software in medicine or psychology, they're not computer scientists. So, of course, they are interested to provide the tooling as a cloud service, of course, from the cloud, because then they can use all the scaling and the cost effectiveness that they have been using for development as well. So that's basically the scope of OCRE and of Exoscale. So let me get to who is Vision, the DevOps company, talking to you today. Vision helps software developers to run their applications anywhere. We do that by helping mostly software development companies with their application operations. And of course, to be able to do that, we support Kubernetes platforms and software as a service, so standard software that we can help as a service. Of course, most of those customers are in the industry, financial industry, online industry, but of course, more and more research and education customers as well, like, for example, the University of Utrecht. We're in the Vision AppOps, the application operations product. We help with the 24/7 operations of their 24/7 cloud native operations, and we help them with the architecture, engineering, and support, especially with the experience from the industry, and help them research code developers with their coding and their deployment automation. And of course, being able to handle 24/7 helps to, especially if it's is used by a worldwide community of researchers, helps to get them up to speed and get their software and tooling more available. And for that, we use DevOps. DevOps, the word of combining development and operations, which of course involves not only like the tools and the processes of how to do that you can see here, but of course also the people. So the people with the experience from 24/7 operations, helping the software developers that do the coding, that do the machine learning models with all the processes and tools and collaboration, basically, to enable them then to be more efficient and be faster on developing their stuff. On the infrastructure layer, we support with Kubernetes platforms. We support both like on-prem, private and public cloud Kubernetes platforms, where Hat OpenShift we use for on-prem and hybrid cloud, so especially combinations of on-prem and cloud. There's, of course, a lot of cloud-provided native Kubernetes services like the Exoscale CaaS that we, of course, also use. And, of course, there's also other Kubernetes services, on-prem Kubernetes services that we can run both the application operations and the software as services on top of. And, of course, providing 24/7 support for all the all the Kubernetes environments and all the stuff running on top of it. That's, of course, something that the Vision can provide. And for that, we have a product we call Apuyo, which is basically Hat OpenShift as a service that you saw earlier in the services listing, that again, you can have as a cloud service that you can provision by yourself, or you can have as your own cluster, where then you are the provider basically for your internal users. And of course, there is also, we are the first and currently only Red Hat premier partner for cloud and service providers in Switzerland. So that's, of course, also something we have a lot of experience in, doing it since 2015. So if you need help with any of that and any other Red Hat stuff, we're, of course, here to help you. We provide a lot of software as a service, as I mentioned. There's a lot of standard backends of modern applications, where that's like the brokering of the cloud services, like, for example, the Exoscale Databases service that you can provision from within the Apuyo cloud or the Apuyo managed products using directly Kubernetes itself. Don't have to go through Terraform or the web GUI to provision your databases and S3 object storage buckets. It does it by itself. And of course, we have a subset of the databases and services that we can use also for on-premise use cases. So if that's a requirement from your side. And a lot of the standard tools that DevOps teams and software developers need. So for example, GitLab, for example, NGINX, that of course you can have as a service running on Exoscale for your convenience. And that's exactly how we work together with Exoscale. Exoscale provides the hardware layer, the infrastructure, the physical infrastructure, the virtual machine layer. And then we can help with Kubernetes, OpenShift, or Puyo on top of it. That's us, right? And then you can provide your software, you and your user can provide your software in containers running on top of that. And so that's how we can collaborate together. And of course, standardizing on Kubernetes helps because it makes it much easier to transition between different models of providing a software, whether it's from an on-prem where you are responsible for both the infrastructure, the operations of the middleware layer and the application itself, whether you move to an infrastructure model where, for example, Exoscale provides you with the infrastructure and you do your virtual machines on top yourself, or you use a platform as a service model where the infrastructure and the platform is provided by a cloud provider like Exoscale and Vision. Then, of course, you still keep the flexibility, the maximum flexibility to move your application and your data between the different models, because it's much easier to move them up here than if you have to move the whole virtual machine and lift and shifting it to a different infrastructure. Of course, if you're moving into a complete software service model where the vendor provides you with the software, like for example, the GitLab as a service, then you don't even have to care about the application. But of course, it only works for standard software. As soon as you have your own software development, as you have your custom processes that you need to solve, then of course you're bound to have at least some control over the application. We have won the Swiss Digital Economy Award in 2019 because of these services, and we are the first Swiss Kubernetes certified service provider to achieve that certification level. And of course, being a Swiss company, we work a lot for banks and insurance companies. We are ISO certified, we have ISAE subtype 1 and 2 audit reports, which of course are most important for banking and insurance customers, but of course also together with GDPR enable us to prove that we really can take care of your data and keep it both safe and secure together with you guys. So that's in a nutshell our business to operate software and infrastructure. We are now 55 employees, mostly based in Zurich, and we now also have an office in Vancouver, Canada, to enable 24/7 support. And of course, being a Swiss company, you can imagine our values of taking responsibility to guarantee 100% reliability and precision. That's of course what we have in our DNA. And so that's of course the expert knowledge and Swiss quality are our key values that we bring to any partnership. And of course, having customers not only in research and education, as I mentioned, also others, helps us to bring in the experience from the larger industry to all fields of online business and of cloud services. That was my short introduction to OCRE, Exoscale, Cloud, containers, and Kubernetes. If you have any questions, please do send me an email or call us. I'm happy to answer your questions, whether you send them to us directly or you leave them down below on YouTube. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Thanks.